I'm a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun.
He's inside the school shooting at the gun!
Well, I had to do it because somebody had to do something.
After shooting in the theater, I didn't have a plan of whether to die or not.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today's video is a member-requested one, so thank you Psycho Rudolph for suggesting it. If you would like to choose at least one case per month that I cover, among other perks, please consider joining my membership. To do so, hit the join button below or follow the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you to all of you who have become members already. I really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. On December 7th, 2017, a quiet morning in Aztec, New Mexico turned tragic when gunshots rang out through the halls of a local high school. In the aftermath of the shooting, the community was shocked to learn that this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act, but rather a planned attack by someone who had already been on the radar of investigative authorities. The numerous red flags that were seemingly ignored left the victims' families and many others grappling with the devastating question: how could this have been allowed to happen? Before getting into the main event of today's case, let's talk about the shooter for a moment. William Edward Atchison was born on March 18, 1996, in Belen, New Mexico, growing up as the younger of two sons. There isn't much known about his childhood, so I'm going to just jump straight into his teenage years. William's family moved to Aztec, New Mexico at some point, where he began to attend Aztec High School. Known as Bill to his peers, William's time at school was fraught with difficulties. He apparently faced significant bullying, including an incident where he was reportedly stabbed in the chest multiple times during a welding class. I was unable to find any more information about this incident, and it is unclear how serious his injuries were, but going off of the fact that he went back to school, I'm assuming it wasn't as bad as it sounds. I could be completely wrong, so please take this with a grain of salt. I was honestly surprised that there wasn't any more information regarding the seemingly serious event. There are reports that even though he was teased and bullied quite a bit by his fellow classmates, there were some who actually made an attempt to befriend him. A student who shared the same math class with William, Tanner LeBlanc, referred to William as Billy when he stated, quote, "When Billy was in class, no one would ever talk to him," unquote. Tanner later described William as a nice but shy kid who always seemed to have a smile on his face, but because he sometimes wore a trench coat to school and suffered from a stutter, kids began to tease him. Sometime between the spring of 2011 and the spring of 2012, Tanner began to notice a change in William's behavior. According to Tanner, William started showing up to school with what appeared to be self-inflicted burns on his body. I wasn't able to verify if Tanner ever questioned William about the burns. William's personal struggles also extended outside of school. A neighbor called the police on William at least twice during a few troubling encounters with him, including an incident where he fired an airsoft pellet gun at her dogs, and also when he made threats to her family during a dispute over marijuana found near their property. This behavior led to the neighbor prohibiting her own sons from associating with him, describing William as a reclusive individual who mostly kept to himself. Jumping ahead just a minute, in 2017, William held a job at a local Giant gas station. An employee who worked with William later backed up his claims when she stated that William was bullied by many people. She had even mentioned the stabbing incident that took place in his welding class, stating that William had previously told her about the ordeal. Throughout his school years, William's troubling behavior escalated. It reached a critical point on March 9, 2012, when he was suspended from school for a time after writing a detailed timeline of the Columbine High School massacre on a classroom whiteboard, a concerning act that was unfortunately not reported to the school's resource officer. Following his suspension, William was forced to attend counseling sessions in order to return to school. William had already been seeing school counselors for most of his life, so this wasn't a new thing for him. William obeyed this demand, but after his long-term counselor retired, William's mental health support waned even further. He only met with a new counselor twice before abruptly discontinuing the sessions, and eventually just deciding to drop out of school altogether. backing up for just a moment. According to schoolshooters.info, William first began making online posts in 2009 under a multitude of accounts and aliases. I'm going to read just a few that he posted throughout the many years he was active online, because there are way too many to include them all. I'll be putting some more of his troubling posts up on the screen for you to pause and read if you'd like, though. The posts ranged in topic, but included ones such as racism, white supremacy, and extreme violence. It's interesting, because there are a few posts here and there where he seems to be positive, and also some where he sympathizes with the victims of school shootings, which obviously isn't consistent with the usual subject matter of his posts. One post from September of 2009 reads, quote, "I'm going to grab a knife and shove it in the neck of my mother. I will then drag her dead body by the trash can, drain her blood, and then finally cut her and grind her up into little pieces. I will eat some of those pieces, and then I will probably barf. I will throw her body away in the trash can. I will then go slaughter sacred animals to appease the gods. Hail Satan. I am agnostic, not Satanist." Unquote. There wasn't much activity in the next few years, but in 2012, William and a friend were chatting back and forth, and William actually mentioned shooting up his former high school, among other places. The full chat log will be up on the screen now. William's screen name in this exchange is El Delgado. In 2014, he made a post that said, quote, "Women should not be allowed to enter into the military or government, nor should they be allowed to vote. They should be demoted to sex objects to be sold by their fathers to all genetically superior people, intellectuals," unquote. Another in the same year reads, quote, "Mass murder is the purity and cleansing of a corrupt, degenerate gene pool. Mark Lapine is a hero," unquote. William's feelings of loneliness and frustration with life in rural New Mexico were expressed in yet another online post in 2014, where he conveyed despair over his life's direction and his difficulty in forming friendships. The post read, quote, "Look, I'm sorry if I'm rude or hateful or anything, but I don't know what to do. I've lived no life for nearly 19 years, most of which was in the miserable-ass Sunbelt. Did you know New Mexico has the 4th highest suicide rate?" Unquote. The post later reads, quote, "Every day I wake up filled with misery, boredom, and hatred." Unquote. It goes on to read, quote, "Should I escape this dump or deal with it? How can I become polite and make some friends out there in this world?" Unquote. This plea for advice went completely unanswered, despite having a few hundred views, only emphasizing his profound sense of isolation. Though his brother later expressed that he believed William was only trolling when making posts, such as the ones we just talked about, you can't help but wonder if these posts were a clear indicator of his true personality. At home, William's own father, Wayne, was also noticing troubling behavior. He would sometimes hear the disturbing sounds of neo-Nazi and propaganda content emanating from his son's bedroom, hinting at William's deepening engagement with extremist ideologies. The depths of William's issues were also evident in his involvement with online gaming communities that disturbingly normalized the simulation of school shootings. His father, Wayne, would later recall a casual comment he had once made to his son, jokingly cautioning him against ever carrying out a school shooting. The truth was that William's digital footprint revealed a much more disturbing pattern of behavior, an obsession with violence that would foreshadow the events to come. William, who adorned his body with neo-Nazi symbols including a swastika and expressed extremist views online, was deeply embedded in internet culture that glorified violence and white supremacy, as I'm sure you could imagine. This extended to his activity on platforms like 4chan, Kiwi Farms, and Encyclopedia Dramatica, where his contributions ranged from pro-Hitler rhetoric to disturbing tributes to other mass shooters. As we already know, his online posts were filled with disturbing entries that displayed his deep-seated resentment, troubling thoughts, and an alarming obsession with violence. His writings frequently mentioned admiration for previous mass shooters, whom he saw as figures of retribution against a society he felt alienated from. In October 2014, while discussing the infamous 1999 Columbine shooting, William wrote, quote, "You might not want to admit it, but those two fuckers had style. Most of these events has some pissed-off, depressed kid go and kill like 2, 3 people. Some who are actually competent, like Lanza or Cho, kill dozens, but leave behind nothing but incoherent ramblings." The Columbine weirdos did their act right around the turn of the millennium, in a suburban culture war area, filled with uptight soccer mom cunts, and had carefully manipulated everyone and everything into order. They carried lots of knives and 99 bombs. If their propane bombs detonated, there'd be 450+ deaths from the blasts alone. They also left behind journals, videos, etc. Plus, the police report was like 20,000 pages long. Waco made a dent in the American morale. McVeigh left a bigger one. Columbine ruined school even further and issued in a huge-ass moral panic. A generation later, Columbine is still a household name, and nobody remembers that word for the beautiful flower you can find in Colorado. But for that event, that happened a fucking decade and a half ago. TLDR, all these kids know about it even though they were like toddlers back then, because it's still very famous today. They look up to the killers because they were bullied and got revenge on the system that torments them. Little do these kids know that the killers murdered mostly innocent people, students. Like I said, go look up Daniel Mauser and Dave Sanders while you're reading this. You owe the victims that attention." Unquote. Just a few days later, for Halloween, William wrote about his costume choice, quote, "I went as a school shooter, namely Dylan Klebold. Had a cap similar to that one. A trench coat my parents gave me I never used. NBK glasses, a duffel bag, black combat boots and pants, and a black shirt with math on it. LOL. Also I carried an airsoft Tech 98. Unquote. His costume directly referenced elements associated with the Columbine High School shooting. The cap and NBK glasses were nods to Dylan Klebold, one of the perpetrators. The acronym NBK stood not only for the film Natural Born Killers, which influenced Klebold and his accomplice, but also served as their code name for the attack. His shirt labeled math was a twist on wrath, the actual word on Klebold's shirt during the massacre. The Tech 9 airsoft gun mirrored the actual firearm used by Klebold. William would use aliases online such as Future Mass Shooter and engaged in a disturbing community of people that discussed mass murders and far-right ideologies. One of his numerous online profiles, created under an alias, listed a series of unsettling interests. The profile also unabashedly expressed hatred towards specific groups of people and his seemingly all-consuming rage towards society. This dark online persona was carefully veiled under the anonymity of the internet. In early 2016, William initiated contact with 18-year-old David Sonbully online. Sonbully would go on to carry out the Munich mass shooting in July of that same year, resulting in 9 deaths and 36 injuries before Sonbully's suicide. Before that shooting took place, William and Sonbully were both members of a Steam chat group named the Anti-Refugee Club, where individuals sharing similar extremist views would connect. According to some sources, William was actually the co-founder of this chat group. Described by some of its members as purely satirical, the group glorified figures like neo-Nazi terrorist Anders Breivik and shared violent fantasies against non-Aryans, migrants, and refugees, while discussing weapons and mass shooting tactics through the guise of multiplayer video game chats. Following the Munich tragedy, William wrote a tribute to Sonbully on Encyclopedia Dramatica, praising him as a true Aryan and true German. William also claimed friendship with Carter Boyles, a 15-year-old who was fascinated with school shootings. Boyles originally planned on committing a mass shooting, but ended up taking his own life at his high school in 2016. William wrote about Boyles' suicide on Encyclopedia Dramatica and expressed his condolences in a comment under a video about Boyles, arguing that society overlooks such individuals while those who commit mass murder gain notoriety. The potential for real-world violence was so prominent with William that the FBI actually initiated an investigation on him in March of 2016, after his online posts about planning a mass shooting and asking about weapons were flagged. William had reportedly made a post stating that he was planning a mass shooting and asked a forum where he could find cheap firearms that he could use for the event. The troubling messages were originally traced to the computer of William's older brother Brent, and on March 24, 2016, investigators visited the Atchison family home, where William assured them that his online posts were merely trolling and that he was not serious about carrying out any violent acts. He admitted to being previously suicidal and having a fascination with school shooters and firearms, but assured the agents that he was no threat but agreed to the idea of being put on a watch list for safety. I was unable to find the original post about the prospective mass shooting, as it appears William deleted it soon after the FBI had visited his home.
Alright, so let me just calm this stuff. So you guys are FBI. So this is pretty much going to be relating to my internet stuff, whatever. And I've had a life, so their solution was to go psycho, and mine is pretty much control, you know, like make fun of everyone, you know.
Why do you say, William, you have a life, man?
Well, my history is you know,
like what?
Like I've been stabbed. And my body's covered with scars for being stabbed, and I've been.
Who stabbed you? Let's see him.
Like gangsters and like, you know, the burning game where you take like erasers and they would like force me down and go like that. And up here, it's like just being stabbed with pistols a few times. Okay. So my point is, I've had a screwed up life, but like, obviously, I need to be looked at after all this. You know? I mean, let's just have a sense of humor. Like, I mean, all my I've done online, you know, like, I wouldn't actually do any of this, you know.
What I am saying is, when the curiosity starts to form like that, you really need to be really careful with where that goes, because what starts out as really a genuine concern, and as many online stuff goes on, they tend to get persuaded one way or the other, and we don't want William to get persuaded to the wrong side.
Despite William's severely concerning posts online, the FBI concluded the investigation, determining that William was not a threat, as he didn't possess any real firearms beyond an airsoft gun, and also that he had a clean record. As a result of a grave miscommunication, the details concerning William's threatening online behavior were incorrectly linked to his older brother. This mix-up led the Aztec police to mistakenly post a warning inside the police station with a sketch and the personal details of his brother Brent, not William himself. This critical error was never corrected, and more alarmingly, the information was never shared with the school district or the school resource officer, leading to a tragic oversight in addressing the real threat that William posed. Skipping ahead, on November 3, 2017, a seemingly routine day began with William accompanying his father to the Sportsman's Warehouse in Farmington. Together, they purchased a 9mm Glock 19 Gen 4 semi-automatic pistol. His father later stated that he half-jokingly advised him not to point it at anyone. In the weeks that followed, William and his brother practiced shooting with both the new handgun and a .22 caliber rifle that Brent had recently purchased as well. Though no one knew it at this time, behind closed doors, William was preparing for something much more sinister than recreational shooting. Weeks before his planned attack, the now 21-year-old William discreetly visited Aztec High School under the guise of curiosity, receiving a guided tour from an unsuspecting teacher. He also constructed a timeline for the day that he planned to carry out his attack. On a torn note later found in his home, he wrote, quote, 1 o'clock to 6:20, work, 6:20 to 7 o'clock, blank, 7 o'clock to 7:30, prep, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, walk, 8 o'clock, die, unquote. All sources report that the second line says pack up, but I honestly can't tell what it says, so I'll have the photo up for you guys to look at. Just days before the shooting, another personal entry written by William would expose more of his bigotry and solidify his extremist beliefs. It read, quote, once I really am in power, my first and foremost task will be the annihilation of the Jews. As soon as I have the power to do so, I will have gallows built in rows, at the Marienplatz in Munich, for example, as many as traffic allows. Then the Jews will be hanged indiscriminately, and they will remain hanging until they stink. They will hang there as long as the principles of public hygiene permit. As soon as they have been untied, the next batch will be strung up, and so on down the line, until the last Jew in Munich has been exterminated. Other cities will follow suit, precisely in this fashion, until all Germany has been completely cleansed of Jews, unquote. On December 5, 2017, 2 days before he would attack his former high school, that he had attended about 5 years prior, William made a post online that read, quote, remember kids, if you plan on killing people, don't be edgelords in public about it, and save a bullet for your own pea-sized brain. Thanks, unquote. On the eve of the shooting, 2 police officers stopped by the gas station that William worked at. They spoke to him as they filled up their patrol cars, but according to them, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. At 6:51 a.m. on the day of the attack, just over half an hour after finishing up his night shift, William drafted a grim note on a thumb drive. It read, quote, "If things go according to plan, today would be when I die. I wait until the school buses are detected, then head out on foot disguised as a student. I go somewhere and gear up, then hold a class hostage and go apeshit, then blow my brains out," unquote. The entry continues with an expression of deep dissatisfaction with his life. Quote, "Work sucks, school sucks, life sucks. I just want out of this shit. Fuck this state. It really is bad. Think I'm insane? I'm actually more rational, peaceful, and less loony than a majority of the citizenry of this entire region," unquote. According to schoolshooters.info, William made one last post on the day of the shooting, which consisted of only one word: die. Now let's move on to the shooting itself. This is the point in the video where I will be referring to William as Atchison. December 7th, 2017, began like any other day for the students and staff at Aztec High School. But for Atchison, it signified the culmination of his sinister plans. He arrived at the school, blending in with the morning rush. Disguised as a student, he entered the building carrying a backpack loaded with his Glock and several magazines. Atchison made his way up a staircase in the school, making a left at the top, before secluding himself in a second-floor bathroom to arm himself with the Glock. At that same time, a 17-year-old student named Francisco Fernandez left his class in the computer lab across the hall to go to the restroom. As Francisco entered, Atchison was caught by surprise. In a panic, Atchison raised his weapon and shot Francisco multiple times in the head, arms, and upper torso, killing him instantly. Chaos ensued as Atchison left the bathroom and stepped out into the hallway, where he encountered 17-year-old Casey Marquez immediately outside. Atchison raised his weapon and shot her numerous times in the torso and head, ending her life as well. The echoes of gunfire triggered a swift response from Thomas Emery Hill, the school custodian, who courageously shouted a warning throughout the school after he witnessed the shooter firing his gun. He alerted the school about the active threat, urging teachers to secure their classrooms. Originally, some of the students thought the noise was coming from someone hitting a bat against the lockers in the hallway, until an announcement came over the school's intercom speaker, putting the school into lockdown, saying, quote, "This is not a drill," unquote. All over the school, students and teachers immediately locked their doors and hid in their classrooms, desperate to shield themselves from the attack. With this unexpected start to his rampage, Atchison had to quickly devise another plan, now that the school was aware of the immense threat. Like he detailed in the note, Atchison's original plan was to hold a classroom hostage before killing the occupants of the room. Obviously, this plan would have resulted in more casualties, because the teachers would not have had enough time to react if Atchison was already inside their classroom. This plan was destroyed when he was interrupted in the bathroom, when he felt forced to fire his gun prematurely, so he instead decided to just attack anyone he came into contact with. Because Francisco took that moment to use the bathroom, he unknowingly saved many lives by running into Atchison. When the shooting first began, Katie Potter, a 74-year-old substitute teacher, found herself and her 17 students without a key to lock the computer lab across the hall from the bathroom that the attack began in. Thinking quickly, she corralled the students into a small office within the computer lab, barricading the door with a couch. At this same time, Atchison was making his way down and across the hall towards the computer lab, and he quickly became aware of the students' and teachers' presence behind the closed office door. He tried to open the door, only to find it blocked from the other side, so he raised his weapon and fired through the wall. Yet miraculously, no one taking cover inside the room was injured. He then randomly fired throughout the computer lab, causing damage to the room and sending bullets through the walls to other classrooms. I think I should mention that this computer lab class was the one that Francisco had just exited from to go to the restroom. Unable to gain entry to the room, Atchison exited the computer lab and wandered the halls for a bit, making his way towards the same staircase he originally climbed, firing at windows and shattering glass doors. He went down the stairwell and fired out a glass panel of an exit door before stopping to reload. After reloading, he made his way back up the stairs, and this time took a right at the top. Just on the other side of these double doors, Atchison would pause in the hallway before putting his weapon to the roof of his mouth and pulling the trigger, ending his own life. The terrifying nightmare lasted until 8:16 a.m. Atchison's actions spurred an immediate and intense police response, who arrived at the scene within minutes of the first distress call. They stormed the school, securing the premises as the lockdown continued. Police went through the school, clearing it room by room, eventually ushering students outside into a secondary location to be reunited with their family members. The quick action by brave individuals like Katie Potter limited the casualties, but it was little consolation in the face of senseless violence. The tragedy shook the lives of local residents, and in the wake of the shooting, the small community came together for prayer services and candlelight vigils, mourning the losses and seeking solace. Governor Susana Martinez, having met with the grieving families, shared her heartbreak over the loss of such young individuals. She stated, quote, "The families are broken, but are pulling together," unquote. Reflecting on the profound impact of the tragedy, she added, quote, "I don't think anyone ever gets over this," unquote. The incident would leave the community of Aztec wrestling with grief and the haunting question of what could lead a young man to commit such an atrocity. As investigations unfolded, the depths of Atchison's troubles were coming to light, revealing his descent into ideologies that many would argue fueled his urge to kill. This disturbing pattern and history of overlooked signs and unchecked extremism came to light when investigators sifted through Atchison's life following the shooting. Local authorities' investigation described Atchison as determined to create as much carnage as he possibly could. Although the Southern Poverty Law Center later attributed the attack to his white supremacist beliefs, this connection was contested by local law enforcement, which argued there was insufficient evidence to prove his ideological leanings directly influenced his choice of victims, despite the overwhelming trove of rhetoric online. It's possible that if the shooting went as planned, and Atchison was able to hold a class hostage, we would see more of a targeted attack. However, with the unexpected start to the rampage, I'm not surprised that his victims might not fit the profile of those he might have gone after otherwise. As part of their investigation, police talked with both Atchison's father and brother. I will be inserting a few clips from each of their interviews. It's important to note that they were both unaware that Atchison was deceased at the beginning of their interviews. This is why you will hear them talking about him in the present tense. Police got into contact with Atchison's father, Wayne, and told him they needed to talk to him about something. To the police's surprise, Wayne pretty much already knew what the conversation was going to be about.
Okay.
And I'm kind of just feeling really weird.
Why so?
Because I heard there was a shooting at the high school, and my son was probably the one who did it.
Okay. Who'd you hear that from?
I didn't hear it per se. I sort of sent feelers out, and I kind of got that from the people over there.
Is that information surprising to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
I'm not one to mince words, and there's no easy way to talk about this, but I do believe that that is true. There are 3 people dead at the Aztec High School, and one of them is your son.
Wayne was surprised by that information, stating that he thought his son was in jail at that time. The authorities, after making sure Wayne was okay to continue talking, began to ask him questions about Atchison.
Has he spoke of anything like this to you?
He went, because he's 21 now, he went with his brother, and they got him a Glock, whatever, 19 or whatever it was. And I made the comment, make sure you never ever point that at anybody.
Okay.
And don't pull like whatever they call it. It's not in my mind right now, but when the kids shoot at school, that's going on a lot. He sees it on the news.
Why would you feel the need to say that to him?
I just said it, man. I was just, kind of clowning around, I thought, but...
So don't pull school shooting?
Yeah, don't, never point a gun at anybody. It's like, I know all the rules. I've studied them on the internet and all that. But I think a lot of the sites that he went to were like neo-Nazi sites and, weird stuff like that. There's an FBI agent over there who has been to this house before to investigate Bill.
So he was going to neo-Nazi sites on the computer?
Well, I don't know. that type of site. I don't know if it was the neo-Nazi site, but he was propaganda type sites. I'm like, don't listen to that shit. Find other stuff to do.
The police were also curious to learn more about how Atchison acquired the gun that he used in the shooting.
So he had gone with his brother to get a Glock?
Heck, I might have even took him.
Okay.
But he was 21. It was like,
yeah, I'm not.
His brother and him went and they bought a .22 rifle.
When did they get that?
It's only been like a month or so ago.
They got a Glock and a .22?
They got a Glock 1 week and a .22 the next week. .22 rifle.
And how long ago did you say again?
Probably about a month. I don't know the exact date. Because since I'm not working, it's time just one day after the next.
And the .22 that they bought, was that for his brother or for him?
They said it was for his brother, Brent.
Okay.
And that was about a week later at Kmart or Walmart.
The officer then asked Wayne about Atchison's past, and he told him about Atchison's history with counseling and bullying at school. Desperate to uncover a motive, the officer continued to ask him questions.
Anything else that can stick out in your mind? Everything you could think of, we would like to know about it.
Well, he didn't have any indicators this morning that he was even.
What about over the last few days or weeks or that are just?
Nope. No indicators at all.
The interview with Atchison's father concluded with little answers uncovered. At the same time, Atchison's brother, Brent, had gone into the police station to answer some questions. During his interview, the police started off asking him about Atchison's current life, as well as his time while growing up. They quickly got into Atchison's tumultuous personality, with Brent telling police that he knew his brother would frequently sit on the internet for hours on end and intentionally antagonize people for no reason.
What does he do with the internet?
Well, he'll get on there and just start arguments with people for the fun of it.
Trolling, okay.
Yeah, that's like his central preoccupation.
Okay.
That's all he does.
So is that through like social media, email, what is it?
I would assume, like, I know he loves to get on YouTube, but that's about as far as I know.
What does he like on YouTube?
Oh, if he can find anything offensive. Like the most offensive thing he can find, he'll go straight for that.
Like, give me an idea. I love things that offend people.
Anything.
So just
racist things.
Okay.
Just anything that's current events too. So if it's like the president,
he just likes to fire people up.
He'll double down on anything that anybody's mad about at the time.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's really annoying, and that's
so
part of.
You were saying like in his room, like does he have a laptop, computer, like how?
Yeah, he has a computer. It's a desktop.
Just a desktop. It was on his desktop all the time, then. Okay.
Yep, pretty much.
Wow. So I mean, a lot of YouTube videos, racist stuff, political stuff. And how would he fire it off? Through like Facebook or?
I think he just does it through the comments on YouTube.
Oh, through the
like he'll just
it trolls the comment section.
Yeah, he'll just get down there and he'll just say the most inflammatory stuff he can.
Yeah.
Just to get a rise out of people. And then like as soon as it dies down, he'll get back in there and just say one more thing, keep it going. It's like, dude, you need to stop. It's like you're causing problems for people.
Did anything else influence him? I mean, like, was there any religion or God in his life, or church, or I mean, anything else like that?
No, not that I can think of.
So I mean, when he was home, he wasn't working. All internet?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. Okay. And you tried to get him out and get him involved with other things, and
yeah, like a while back. Like this has been a while because my friends kind of got tired of him real fast.
Mm-hmm.
I would try and like drag him places when I was going and have him hang out with my friends, or when they were at the house, have him hang out.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually they were just like, dude, it's like all he wants to do is try and get people to argue about stuff. We don't want to hang out with him anymore. And it's like, well, okay. Like, I guess that's fair. I got a couple friends that'll hang out with him.
Yeah.
But they're extremely patient.
So, what did he argue about?
Oh, and like I said, it's the same stuff. Politics, religion,
give me some ideas.
racism. Like he'll just pick a topic at random. Well, not really at random. It's got to be something inflammatory. He'll just pick something and he'll just bring it up.
What was the biggest thing that he was always bringing up?
Oh, geez, it can literally just be anything. It's hard to nail down. Like
okay.
he'll start crap like even over things that don't matter, like Mac versus PC.
Just if he can get somebody to argue one side against another, he'll do it. And he'll antagonize it as much as he can.
Tell me about the racist stuff. What was that about?
No, he'll like, if somebody say, like, he won't start it out saying something racist, but if he goes into like a forum or on a YouTube video or whatever, he'll see something somebody said that's racist and deliberately make it worse.
Brent then went on to tell the officers about Atchison's life, stating that Atchison had been watching videos about guns for a while at this point. He also included that he and his brother had gone out shooting together a few times in the recent past. Authorities inquired about Atchison's social life, and Brent explained that as far as he knew, he had recently made some friends from his place of work. Out of nowhere, Brent thought about a strange exchange that had happened with his brother. Brent showed and told them about an email that Atchison had sent him the day before, which threw him off. In the email, Atchison told Brent that he loved him and wanted to hang out more. Brent told police that Atchison didn't usually use email as a form of communication, and the subject was so far off from his usual edgy demeanor.
So why do you think it's weird? There's nothing weird about
say stuff like that to me, first of all, but then he also doesn't email me. Like, he's never once messaged me and been like, hey, I love you, bro. Never happened. And then I saw that email. I was at work. I actually stopped my coworker.
Oh, did you get the top where it says love you?
That was when?
Yeah. That was, actually, it should be on there. I'm not sure. It was a couple days ago, though. Does it say what day that was?
On the 6th?
December 6th. That was yesterday.
Oh, so yesterday.
Yesterday at noon.
Yeah, I stopped my coworker even, because I was walking and I checked my phone, and I stopped my friend Amanda and my coworker, and I was like, oh my god, it's like, look at this. She's like, that's weird, because she's talked to my brother online a few times, and she's like, it's kind of odd for him.
A few minutes later, the police began to steer towards the topic of the shooting.
What do you know about what happened this morning?
I heard there was a shooting at Aztec, but I heard about that right before I left.
Okay.
And I was just texting somebody right before I left about it.
Okay, and what did they tell you?
Jessica. I didn't get a response.
You didn't get it. So what's your understanding of what happened?
I know there was a shooting. One of my coworkers said it was an old man.
Okay.
And that was about it. I don't know if anybody was killed. I don't know how many people were hurt.
Okay. We don't have all the details yet. We're still trying to identify the person who did the shooting. Okay. Because we don't know exactly the identity of the shooter is one of the reasons why you're here talking to us. We're concerned that it may be your brother.
Oh, shit.
It may not be. Okay? I want to show you a photograph. Brent, I don't want to do it if it's going to upset you, because the shooter is no longer with us.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Needing a positive identification, the police asked Brent if he was okay with them showing him a picture of the deceased shooter. After a bit of hesitation, Brent agreed to look at the photo. Upon looking at the picture, Brent told the authorities that the shooter looked like his brother, William. From the audio, it's clear that Brent began to get emotional, and the police tried to console him. After he saw the photo, Brent immediately inquired about any casualties of the shooting.
Did he hurt anybody?
We're still working that out.
on that. We're like, it's a mess. We're trying to figure out what's going on exactly, and that's why we don't want to.
Oh, god damn it. He better not have hurt anybody.
From our investigation, we're pretty positive that it's him. But we always like to have a family member
Fuck me.
look at a photo. And I know it's tough, man.
God damn it. As long as he didn't hurt anybody else. Fuck. That's all I want. I know it's asking a lot, but if he just didn't hurt anybody else, that would be so much better.
Well, Brent, people were hurt.
God damn it. Motherfucker.
So,
Brent then went more into how William would act and what he would talk about, even mentioning that Atchison would sometimes mention school shootings. According to Brent, he never thought anything of it, as this clearly wasn't the first time that Atchison said something offensive to get a rise out of people. Authorities were now focusing on finding a motive.
Now if you look back, because you thought he was trolling people, stuff like that. Now if you look back, what was so weird, like what kind of comments that he made that now if you look back, you said, that was kind of weird. What do you think? What kind of, like, I don't know,
everything he said. Now at this point, I'm going to be second guessing everything he's ever said. Because you saw the type of crap he sends me. It's been like that for years. I just ignore it at this point, but fucking A.
Like when was the last time he talked about like school shooting, stuff like that?
Like a year ago, maybe. To me, at least, but it could have been sooner. I have a tendency to ignore half the crap he sends me if it's something that looks like that. God damn it.
Man, it's not your fault, man. Or nobody could see it coming, I guess.
No, I should have seen it coming. I definitely should have seen it coming.
Why do you say that?
Because of the stupid comments. If you assume it's not a troll and you assume he's serious, then it should have been a red flag. It just wasn't to me because of all he says so much crap. He talks so much shit that I just.
But Brent, you know that a lot of people talk shit, and they say things that are extreme, but people don't normally act on that stuff like that.
I know that, but I should have
So you're gonna beat yourself up over saying I should have known, but you gotta understand, buddy, that if this is the way he's normally talking and there's no change that you can visibly see, then how would you know? I mean, but that's what I'm trying to get at. Is there something, you see what I'm saying? It's like you're gonna beat yourself up over saying, well, I should have seen this, but maybe something along the line, it could be very, very subtle. Just changed in his personality, and it could have been as soon or as early as 2 or 3 days ago. I mean, this may not have been a build-up, a plan for a year or 6 months. And he bought the gun on November 3rd. You guys go target shooting a couple times, that's 30 days, 33 days, 34 days. So, I mean, this may not have been planned out from the beginning. This could have been something that something snapped. And so that's why I was asking if there was some type of traumatic event or something, a girl in his life that dumped him, a significant other, a family member dying, him having an altercation at work, him knowing somebody at school that would have just triggered this.
There's nothing that's happened recently that I can point to. Mm-hmm. There's no anything that's happened as far as I know that would. Like, what would have to happen to somebody to make them go out and hurt somebody?
But Brent, you may not know. I mean, even if something did happen, there's a possibility you may not know about it.
Maybe he was fuck. Maybe he's gonna tell me. Maybe that's why he was fucking emailing me shit, so I'd go talk to him. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, but you don't know that. You can't.
But that's just... I'm sorry for swearing, by the way. But that is fucking weird, the way he messaged me like that out of the blue. So I'm sure he was planning it before that. I'm sure he was, because why would he send me that message?
The rest of Brent's interview just consists of them speaking more about potential warning signs, but by the end of it, they are no closer to figuring out what exactly drove Atchison to commit such a heinous act. The investigation by the sheriff's office concluded in August 2018, determining that Atchison acted alone, but his true motive still remained unclear. There is speculation that Atchison chose to commit the shooting on the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack, aiming to associate his actions with a historically significant day, possibly because a relative had died in that attack. An autopsy and coroner's report revealed that Atchison died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Also found during the autopsy were the faint neo-Nazi symbols on his body, including a swastika, SS runes, the acronym AMOG, which means alpha male of the group, and the phrase, build wall. According to the toxicology report, no substances were found in Atchison's system at the time of his death. The attack was characterized by some as an example of incel violence, noting that Atchison had used the name Elliot Rodger, an infamous shooter who was an incel online, and had extolled him as the supreme gentleman. It remains unclear whether Atchison identified with the incel movement. Analysts categorized Atchison's attack as having mixed motives, suggesting it was not conducted expressly for political reasons or to further the incel agenda, but was likely influenced by related beliefs. William Atchison's case is not unique in the fact that he was a prior subject of FBI investigation before committing a violent act. The FBI had similarly interviewed individuals like the 2021 Indianapolis FedEx shooter and Tamerlan Tsarnaev before the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, with the latter case being closed years before the attack occurred. Experts in mass shootings have expressed their concerns over the missed indicators of violence in Atchison's behavior and note that there was a missed opportunity for serious intervention. Catherine Schweit, former head of the FBI's active shooter program, defended the agents involved in the case, asserting that the interview did not reveal grounds for a criminal investigation. Mass shooter expert Peter Langman felt similarly and maintained that the FBI conducted a thorough investigation given the evidence available at the time, emphasizing the practical challenges in monitoring every potential threat continuously. Disagreements remain on how the FBI handled the situation with others, believing that the online threats Atchison made were sufficient for obtaining a search warrant for his computer. Doing so might have exposed Atchison's discussions of violence with David Sonbely, the Munich shooter, potentially preventing both attacks in the process. While we are on the topic, it makes me wonder how thorough of an investigation they did on Sonbely. I would hope that if they went through his digital life, they would have seen the messages exchanged between him and Atchison. I unfortunately don't have any clue how extensive the investigation was after the Munich shooting, but I really wish they would have uncovered Atchison's sinister plan before it was too late. Families of the victims and residents would be stunned to learn that William Atchison's violent act at Aztec High School was not only a highly premeditated one, but also that it came with a history of red flags. The revelation that numerous warning signs preceded the tragic shooting provoked a significant reaction from both the community and the broader public. Many were horrified and dismayed to learn that despite clear indicators of potential violence, the measures to intervene effectively were either insufficient or not pursued. The community struggled with the findings, emerging with questions about how such overt signals could be overlooked, sparking discussions about the need for more effective means to identify and act upon potential threats in the future. The public outcry led to calls for reforms in how schools and law enforcement agencies handle indications of potential violence, aiming to prevent such oversights in the future and ensure safer environments for students and communities. Casey Marquez's mother took legal action in the years following the tragedy with 2 wrongful death lawsuits. The first, filed against the Aztec School District and Police Department in December of 2019, argued that school administrators had ignored recommendations from a 2013 security assessment that had suggested securing the school's perimeter with fencing, as well as implementing a more controlled entrance. The lawsuit alleged that the superintendent and a board member had deemed the security risks too remote to justify the funding of these improvements. Casey's mom was also suing because of what was later uncovered following the police having returned her daughter's cell phone to her. After going through her daughter's cell phone, her mother had stumbled across a shocking text conversation between Casey and one of her teachers, James Coulter. The text messages were described as inappropriate and sexualized in nature, pointing towards the fact that Casey and James were engaging in a highly inappropriate teacher and student relationship. I think it's worth noting that the lawsuit made it known that Casey was only in that area of the school on the day of her death, because she had just left James Coulter's office after dropping off a coffee for him. Casey's mother blamed the school district officials for doing nothing to stop the sexual contact between the two, even though Coulter had been on the school's radar since as early as 2014, when the first report of sexual contact with a student surfaced. However, it appears the school completely ignored the reports, and instead let James Coulter, alone, teach the school's cheer team, the same team that Casey Marquez was on. After the text became public, and everyone was aware of the dark secrets the school was keeping under wraps, on May 3, 2018, the principal of Aztec High School recommended that James Coulter should be terminated from his position at the school due to, quote, inappropriate conduct and texting communications with a student, unquote, along with, quote, exploitation and sexual harassment, unquote. Not long after this, James Coulter would resign from his teaching position, stating the reason being, quote, due to anxiety over a school shooting, unquote. After resigning, Coulter was subsequently arrested after police learned about the text messages. During the investigation into his actions, Coulter stated, quote, I hugged her, and she felt it was more than that. I said, I can't do that. That's a later thing when you graduate. We can discuss that road. Nothing happened sexually with her. Nothing like that." Unquote. Later, Coulter admitted to having sexual contact with a 17-year-old student from Aztec High School in 2015 and stated that there were more victims. He also openly admitted to hugging and kissing Casey Marquez inside her vehicle on school grounds. He later pled guilty to 1 count of criminal sexual contact of a minor, referring to the relationship he had in 2015, but not the incidents involving Casey Marquez. Coulter was sentenced to 18 months in prison. His teaching license was also revoked, and he was made to register as a sex offender. Although, due to the time Coulter had already served in jail, the judge suspended the rest of his sentence. So, James Coulter was able to walk free that same day. The attorney representing Casey's mother later stated, quote, "In fact, there was 2 monsters on the day of the shooting. The shooter, as well as J.D. Coulter, who was the teacher at the time." Unquote. In June of 2020, Casey's mother initiated the second lawsuit, this time targeting the FBI. She accused the agency of negligence leading to her daughter's death, arguing that the shooter could have been preemptively stopped had the FBI conducted a thorough threat assessment using all available data, including the student's school file, which documented prior psychological issues and bullying. The lawsuit also criticized the FBI for not investigating Atchison's ties to David Sunbury, who had carried out a mass shooting shortly after the FBI concluded their initial probe into Atchison himself. The lawsuit sought unspecified compensation for the loss of life, pain and suffering, and potential earnings. The suit was reportedly dismissed in December of 2020 due to technicalities, with a ruling that the FBI was immune from such litigation. Jamie Lattin, Casey's mother, stated, quote, "There were many red flags. There's a lot to hold accountable from the school, Aztec Police Department, the FBI, the shooter himself, his family. Everybody's at fault. All of them." Unquote. In response to her daughter's murder, Casey's mother also founded the nonprofit Aztec Strong SJC to provide college scholarships in her honor to students in New Mexico and Colorado. She described the shooting as a collective failure, emphasizing the community's loss, including that of Atchison, who was raised within the same community. There was continued criticism towards the FBI for not taking further action, such as facilitating counseling for Atchison, who she described as being in a serious mental health crisis and potentially dangerous, while others continue to defend the FBI's efforts and remain firm that the FBI conducted a thorough investigation. After the shooting, New Mexico lawmakers allocated funds for enhanced school safety infrastructure, including fencing and secured entrances. At Aztec High School, security measures were intensified with additional school resource officers, fortified perimeter security, and upgraded external doors featuring remote locking technology. The Aztec High School shooting was a devastating reminder of the impact of mass shootings and the role of online extremist communities in radicalizing individuals. The senseless deaths of students Francisco Fernandez and Casey Jordan Marquez were a heartbreaking loss to their families and community as a whole. William Atchison's involvement in online spaces that glorified violence and mass shooters points to a larger problem of internet radicalization. His violent actions only bring attention to the need for better monitoring and intervention strategies to prevent similar incidents. The investigation into the FBI's response to Atchison's concerning behavior before the shooting revealed missed opportunities to prevent the tragedy, sparking discussions about improving law enforcement approaches to potential threats. In the end, despite extensive efforts to understand and prevent them, the reasons why some individuals commit mass shootings are complicated and oftentimes misunderstood. The interplay of factors like mental health struggles, exposure to extremist ideologies, and personal grievances creates a slew of potential triggers that are difficult to navigate and predict. Unfortunately for the community of Aztec, New Mexico, the combination of these factors turned lethal. Now let's give the 2 victims their time. Francisco Isaiah Fernandez was born on June 7, 2000, in the nearby town of Farmington, New Mexico. According to his obituary, Francisco loved both watching and playing sports. He had only recently started attending Aztec High School, but was already involved in football, basketball, and wrestling. During his free time, he often played video games, but he was also known to have loved to spend time with his friends and family. According to his relatives, Francisco's grades were very important to him. They also described him as being a very reliable person to turn to. Francisco's cousin, Ramon, said, quote, "If you ever needed that one person to talk to, that was him," unquote. Casey Jordan Marquez was born on April 8, 2000 in Durango, Colorado, which is about 45 minutes away from Aztec, New Mexico. Casey's mother later described her daughter as a fighter ever since she entered the world. She also stated that Casey was a wild kid who was always getting dirty. She continued this habit into her later years, with her sister later stating that Casey loved to go camping and riding four-wheelers. Her sister also said, quote, "I've seen her catch turtles, lizards, snakes, and bugs. She was definitely not afraid of getting her hands dirty," unquote. As Casey grew up, she discovered her love for cheerleading and even went on to join the cheerleading team at Aztec High School, eventually becoming the captain. She was so into the sport that she even began to work at a local gymnastic academy. Casey then went on to work at a cheer and dance company, which quickly became her passion. Bryn Devine, a senior at Aztec High School, later stated, quote, "She lit up pretty much any room we were all in. She was such a fun person to be around, always bringing joy to school events and winning dance contests," unquote. Casey was determined to graduate high school and was looking forward to coaching at cheerleading camps all over the Southwest United States in her adulthood. Heartbreakingly, Casey would never get to accomplish any of the goals she had for her life. She was killed when she was only 17 years old, before she had a chance to really live. Casey's memory was honored with a scholarship that was set up to aid San Juan County students. According to DailyTimes.com, in the 2 years following the creation of this program, 35 scholarships were awarded. Both of these young students had so much to look forward to in their futures. They both seemed like such good kids, and I have no doubt that they would have gone on to do great things. Please keep them and their families in your thoughts. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of the video. I appreciate the continued support from you all. I want to quickly thank my members once again for their additional support. It means the world to me. Until next time, have a wonderful day and stay safe.